Hi, everyone. On behalf of HR.com and today's webcast sponsor, Reward Gateway, we welcome you to the webcast Living Our Values Every Day: How Leading Companies Build Cultures of Employee Appreciation. This webcast has been pre-approved for one HRCI credit and one SHRM credit. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive your credits. You will receive an email from HR.com within 2 business days. It will include your certification information. During the webcast, if you're in attendance via Zoom and you have questions for the presenter, we ask that you use the Q&A tab in your webinar controls. We also have the chat feature open for some great engagement, and there'll be a poll question as well. And for our friends out there who are watching this webcast via live stream on any of our social channels, we welcome you as well, and we invite you to view the archive recording of this webcast later today or in days to come on HR.com, and then you would as well receive the HRCI and SHRM credit. We continue to offer many upcoming HRCI and SHRM approved webcasts, including more from today's sponsor, Reward Gateway. So without further ado, it is now my pleasure to turn it over to Alexandra Powell.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much, Rhonda. Thanks to HR.com, and welcome, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day if you celebrate. Congratulations to Chiefs fans if you celebrate. I apologize to Eagles fans if they are trying to celebrate. I see there are some folks that are saying that they can't hear. I could certainly hear, and I know that there's people that are working to, it looks like you need to do something to automatically connect your audio. So hopefully that experience is happening in the chat. Speaking of the chat, keep that open, because throughout our time today, I will be asking you to throw some ideas in there as we go through. And hopefully you picked up on the reason for the title for today's webinar, Living Our Values Every Day. My subtitle for today is Making Sure Employees Feel Loved, because that is the theme in a lot of cases for February 14th. So just to jump into what we're going to cover, I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of values and culture and how it overarches so many things. I'm going to talk about integrating values and recognition throughout your employee journey, and then rewarding and recognizing against those values. So some folks have already started to do it, but whatever streaming service you're using, whatever chat you have access to, do throw into that chat where you're dialing in from. I'll tell you, I am calling from Rochester, New York, where it is going to hit about 60 degrees today, which is both creepy, but also amazing. So after this, I will be going outside and getting some fabulous outdoor time. Hello, Jackie in Rochester, New York. All right. So first of all, if you don't know about Reward Gateway, one of the most important things to know about us is our mission to make the world a better place to work. It's one I completely get behind as we talk about the importance of values and mission in engaging employees. That is me 100%. I love this mission. I've done this work for 16 years. October was my 16-year anniversary, and that's in large part why I still really love my job. So we know that when 6.5 million employees across 4,000 clients log in and use the software that we support and that we provide them, our goal is to make their world a little bit better place to work. So another thing to keep in mind is if you're here and you're looking for inspiration in the coming weeks and years, I encourage you to go to rg.co/blog. I'm part of the content team that is always churning out really fabulous either research survey overviews or blogs on hybrid work, or for giving out information on Employee Appreciation Day on March 3rd and what you can do to support that. So please do sign up for that, and then you'll have ongoing inspiration outside of the webinars. Okay. So to take things down a little bit, but hopefully to give you a little bit of a reality check and help you feel like what you're feeling, what others are feeling isn't unusual. Our research at the end of 2022 found that 70% of employees, and this was globally, 3,000 employees were surveyed, 70% of employees say they have suffered lasting effects, and importantly, lasting negative effects was in the question, suffered lasting negative effects from the last few years of change and uncertainty. So if you feel like you have to go about business a little differently now, that when you get home, you need to do a little more self-care, not surprising, the last few years have absolutely impacted us. And the top ways that people reported were negative effects to their well-being. 1 in 4 saying they're no longer going above and beyond their usual duties, and feeling disconnected were the top ways the last few years have impacted them. So you may feel like you are working harder to keep people engaged. You probably feel like you're working harder to keep them connected. And I know in previous conversations with HR leaders and senior leaders, they're saying what we really need to do is focus on culture for that reason. We need to have people understanding why they're at work, excited to be at work, engaged with their colleagues, and therefore that much more willing to do the job that's important to our customers and their colleagues. So, why values and culture is so often what people are turning to at this point? What we know is that 52% of people, according to Qualtrics, in the last year said that they would take a pay cut to work for a company whose values better aligned with theirs. We're seeing a lot of this with social responsibility initiatives. People want to know that their company is taking care when there is a crisis, when there is a disaster, that their company is doing what they can to support that. And for Gen Z, it's 68% would take a pay cut to work for a company whose values better align with theirs. So this is increasingly important. But we also know that 32% of employees feel that they're completely informed about their company's values. They may not feel like it's talked about as much. Maybe they learned about it in onboarding. Maybe it shows up on a web page. But are we talking about it on a regular basis? And 23% of employees strongly agree that they can apply their company values to their work, which kind of starts to feel like it's on the walls, but not in the halls, as one of my old colleagues used to say, right? It's up there, but maybe we're not really living it. And if we really want to connect people, give them that mission like I have, get them really feeling excited, it needs to be in the day-to-day. And the real importance of values to the business is that it can help you pivot and innovate in times of uncertainty and beyond. So, for example, I was working with a manufacturing organization and they'd had some acquisitions and they'd had some changeovers and some leadership shakeups, and they just focused on their value of safety first. They said there's a lot that's going on with our processes and getting things adjusted, but in the meantime, our main focus is safety. And it really cut through some of the distraction and helped people understand what was important. We also know that it can give certainty, comfort, and a sense of purpose. So I was working with one of our healthcare clients in the midst of COVID. They were dealing with staffing challenges and staff burnout. And they picked one of their values of kindness. And they said, to really support our people, let's apply that to each other. Let's make the theme for this month kindness to our colleagues. That we're all working really hard to be kind to families and patients on the regular, but we want that reminder that kindness to our colleagues is important. And many of you may still be adjusting to the hybrid or dispersed workforce. Josh Bersin came out with his trends report in the last couple of weeks. And one of the quotes from his findings was that the employee experience will be put to the test by hybrid work. And hybrid work requires a focus on culture. That's his global industry analyst HR predictions for 2023. So this is certainly important to the business as a whole. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about some organizational strategies for bringing culture to the forefront, but I want to make sure we're not forgetting about our managers and our leaders and how they lead. Our findings in our trends report for 2023 showed us that 9 in 10 people say that feeling listened to by leaders is important to their well-being. And when we asked employees what was a must-have for their company at the end of 2022, top across all of the different countries we asked was fair pay. But in second place, in about 3 years running, was a manager who cares. That more than half of people said an employee must have was to have a manager that cares. In fact, it's not in the presentation, but findings just came out that said that the contribution of which people contribute to your mental health and your well-being, whether that's positive or negative, and our managers are at the same level as our partners or spouses. That is going to have as big an impact to my mental health and well-being as the person that I'm living with, that I'm sharing my life with. Because we do share a lot of parts of our lives with our managers. So I want to turn now to values. Hopefully I can give you some great examples of values and how they're integrated so that you can really be inspired for yourselves. As I go through these, what I'd love for you to do, again, wherever you're streaming or listening to this, use that chat feature and tell us, what is your favorite value that your organization uses? I'll share with you some of our clients. This is C-Space out of Boston. These are their values. They have them around their building, as you can see here. Show the love, leave your mark, put we before me. I love the phrasing that they used for these values. They've each got their icons, as you can see, which makes the digital workspace really fabulous. They have them all up. And it's exciting to see. Only accept awesome. But as you might relate to, with some of these values, they wanted to give people some context, right? Put we before me. What does that mean, right? Is there a way you can take that too far? There certainly is. By the way, I love some of these values ideas that are coming in. People over profits. We've got passion, delight others, passion and grit, be bold and have fun. There's some great examples that I can see. So yeah, they've got these icons. So wherever they are focusing on their values, they've got that visual connection to the words, right? So maybe leave your mark is a really important value to you, and you've got that X, which is a nice visual. These are how they have them out. They use our employee engagement platform as a communications recognition device, and one of the pages they have out there on their system is in focusing on their values. Now, the thing that they've done with their values that I think is phenomenal is that they have put when it works and when it doesn't work, which I think is really cool. So for the value, if we look back at our images, we've got the value of, that one is tell it like it is. Yes. So when that works is when you're caring enough about our people and work to provide meaningful feedback. Tell it like it is works to have the courage to speak up when you have a different perspective. But when it doesn't work, tell it like it is isn't meant to be careless in how you provide feedback. It's not about ignoring other people's feedback or poking holes in things without offering solutions. I just love that balance of this is what we want it to be, and this is what it doesn't look like when you do that value. Another cool way of presenting values is from our clients at Heineken. Their values are embracing learning and growth, having a real conversation, learning, sharing, and reapplying, championing a culture of belonging. They're all there, but right now they have a real focus on going green in the next few years. And so all of their values and how they're represented out on their employee engagement platform, these are actually their e-cards that they can send to each other from a recognition perspective. They've got that green theme, right? Evergreen is the logo and the theme that they're working with. And I've seen this with a couple of clients where they take their values and they add a layer to them. Southern New Hampshire University is one of our clients, and they had their 90th anniversary. And so they had their values out on their site that people could be recognizing each other for, but they changed up the design in celebration of their 90th anniversary. And they got a bump in recognition participation because people really loved the redesign and the focus on the anniversary. Okay. Also, I wanted to share with you our values. This is our Reward Gateway site. These are the e-cards we can send to each other. We've got We Work Hard. That's a fabulous one, but also important that people keep in mind that doesn't mean I work until I fall asleep. I answer messages in the middle of the night. No way. We've got We Work Hard, but we've also got We Are Human. I love this value. The We Are Human value is about forgiveness and grace and considering that people are people first before their employees. We've got our We Speak Up value, which is one of my favorites too. We really value people that speak up and pushing the boundaries and delighting our customers. Another thing I wanted to share about what we recognize people for, because those were our values within our e-cards. The other thing we do to support our values around diversity and inclusion is we celebrate a lot of holidays as a global organization. So you're probably seeing some holidays that you wouldn't expect to see, which I love. We've got, for example, Happy Name Day for our colleagues in Bulgaria. They celebrate their name day when the saint that they're named for has their day. And so that's something we're all learning if we don't live in Bulgaria, but we're letting our Bulgarian colleagues celebrate. We've got obviously Passover, we've got Chinese New Year, lots of different ways to celebrate outside of recognizing for our values. We recognize those celebrations. And part of the reason I wanted to highlight this is because these are some cards that are flying around across our platform right now. We've got Share the Love. I got an I love working with you this morning that I can't wait to open up and read. So we've got lots of different ways that we're celebrating the fact that this is Valentine's Day, just to keep people connected and give them a smile, right? I got another card yesterday. It really made me smile and think about how much I really do love working with the people that I work with. So thanks again for the examples. There's a lot. I love Every Voice Matters, Michael. That's a great one. I just want to think about all the ways you could apply Every Voice Matters within your business. So that's fabulous. And then values throughout the employee journey. So as I said, values are great, but if they're only reflected at onboarding and somewhere, on a piece of paper, then you're not capitalizing on it. Then you're falling into that group where people vaguely know them, but they're not contributing to productivity, well-being, connection in the ways you really want them to. So I want to just talk about, this is our engagement bridge at Reward Gateway. We love to talk about this as a way to think about engagement and how all of the different ways that you might focus in on it. Our clients use this tool because they might say, you know what, as I approach 2023, my business will be different than your business and their business and other businesses. Where do I and my colleagues need to focus? It could be your focus on values. It could be a focus on appreciation and recognition. Where do we need to apply that more across this bridge of potential employee engagement topics? We've got recognition, right? Are we putting the effort forth to engage our employees with recognition? We've got job design. Has everybody been sent home in the last few years and people aren't doing work that makes as much sense? Do you find that they're switching between lots of different platforms and technologies to get that work done? Do we need to adjust what people do and how they do it to help them feel engaged and integrated? Learning and onboarding, is that where it needs to be? Leadership and management. We think of leadership as, what are we saying we're doing in regards to our values? And management would be the policies and procedures. So you may say you're living the value of responsibility, but are your policies and procedures providing your employees the opportunity to actually live responsibility? Or are we nitpicking? Are we building policies for the 2% of people that aren't doing what we want them to do? So leadership and management, you've got your purpose, mission, and values that really connect to a lot of them. Open and honest communication. Are we doing what we need to do for our employees in that regard? Obviously, pay and benefits. Workspace, which used to be about the brick and mortar, but now it might be, do I have the banner I want for my webinars? Do I have the ring light in my home that I can use? Do I have my laptop stand for my home office? Do I have resources from the organization to support my workspace wherever it is? And then, of course, well-being. And we're seeing well-being change in its role. It used to be kind of a side benefit that you sometimes got. And now well-being is becoming almost a foundation to so much of the culture and the values that we adhere to. Okay, so let's talk about different ways that values can be applied. And a lot of these examples will include how you use recognition. So the values and recognition piece are really interwoven across all of these. So I'm going to give you examples of what I've seen our clients do, whether that is at the attraction phase of employees, the welcome phase, engaging them throughout their career, the managing or the performance piece of employees, and then the saying goodbye. How are we bringing our values and recognition into play? When we start with attracting, one of the things that we've seen that can bring, it's like a use of the recognition stories to drive your values and to bring the right people in, is sharing out recognition stories that illustrate the role and how employees support it. So if you have a higher turnover position, so let's say this is a CNA at one of our healthcare clients, right? They see that just at the way that the world works, their CNAs are turning over more than other groups. They can go out, especially if you have formalized online digital recognition where you have the recording of everything that's happened. You can pull out some examples of CNAs and how they live your values. And that can be something you present to candidates to let them know. First of all, it highlights the values. It also explains the role in a way that is much more interesting than the average job description. A CNA probably knows what to expect, but do they know how the other functions within the building will support them or not? Stories like that can do a lot to really get people connected to your organization before they even join. So you can go out and gather examples of when they've been recognized and who are they recognizing to illustrate your values and make sure that person comes in already excited and fired up. Obviously, including peers in the interviews with a focus on how that person will complement the culture. We've stopped talking about it being a good fit, a mutual fit, because we want to make sure we're including people we may not have hired in the past, types of people, styles. So we want to make sure they're complementing, not just already fitting the culture. And then asking candidates how they've displayed the values in other roles. This is a technique I loved using when I was hiring. I would share the example, like for example, our values are, speaking up, pushing the boundaries. So I might ask someone, can you tell me about a time when you pushed the boundaries in your current role? Or I might give the list of values to a candidate and say, which of these is most natural to you and which is least natural? You can have some really great conversations by asking that. They have to give you one that's least, right? If they say all of them, then, it's kind of boring. But saying like most natural to me would be the delighting our customers. Maybe I say least natural to me is speaking up because I usually want to listen. I'm more of a listener. So those are some ways that you can really integrate your values during the attraction phase. But for many of us, that's when the values are often showing up. This is an example I wanted to share with you. This is an example of one of our clients where you can see for this particular role, lots of examples of them living the values of teamwork, compassion, and initiative. This is in a healthcare client. The first example is, hey, I wanted to thank you for staying late to help with a tough case. You volunteered to stay for one, but when you saw a teammate struggling, you did what you hoped someone would do for you, right? That's what a great teammate is about. How reassuring during the welcome phase to know that that's how the team works. Then Mario received a compassion award. Thanks for all you do. You have a great bedside manner. It's not often that nurses see physicians offering to get patients a warm blanket or assisting in transferring a patient to the floor. You truly care about your patients and the nurses, and it's appreciated more than you know. And then finally, initiative. Chrissy planned, organized, and set up an amazing patient snack station. It looks amazing. It has a mini fridge, a beautiful basket with snacks for patients and families, and a microwave. It has a small dresser. It looks great and is welcoming. So you can use those throughout an employee life cycle to give people a sense of what it looks like to live these values, but especially during the welcome phase to give people a really solid expectation. Or the attraction phase. Now, when we see welcoming, having managers translate the values to the role, I'm curious, put into the chat, who would you say owns your values in your organization? Is it everyone? Is it HR? Is it managers? I love it. CEO, yeah, hopefully the CEO is very involved, right? We want everyone to own those values for sure. The owners, you want it to be clear that senior leadership is really supporting and owning them, but you want everyone to own it. And we definitely don't want our managers to skip out. We have a culture club. That's fabulous. I would be singing songs in my head while I was thinking about culture club. 80s children will know what I mean. Um, but you'd want to make sure that this isn't just something that HR is telling people about, but something that is really being lived. And so in most of our clients, when we were working with them on how to build their values in, we were saying, hey, if HR is maybe doing the onboarding, how are the managers talking about the values? Having employees recognize someone for living the values in their first weeks. That's a part of the onboarding checklist that I really encourage you to have, because that ability to translate what you're seeing into and tell those stories is a great way to invite employees in to your overall culture, but it also makes sure that they understand the importance of recognition. If you have a formalized digital recognition program like our clients do, you can use that. Or it could be inviting them when they're ready to share at the start of a staff meeting who's helped them, who they've seen living those values. Or it could just be a story that they tell in manager one-on-ones. And then, of course, having the manager recognize the new employee when they've lived the values. That can be a tricky time early on. You can feel stressed, you can feel uncomfortable. So anytime people can provide that feedback and to be able to say, you've demonstrated passion and grit is so much more powerful than, wow, you're really doing well. The specificity of bringing the values in, it's a nice exercise for managers to be thinking about the values, but it's fabulous for those new starters, new joiners, to know that they're making a difference and to have the pride that they're already not just a part of their team, but a part of the larger culture as a whole. Oh, and this is, how we talk about our values online, as we often do in onboarding. We've got it out there for everybody so that they understand what the values are. So having a place where people can go and learn about them, not just when someone tells you, but a place you can go talk them through is also really important. Another thing when it comes to welcoming, what a lot of our clients are doing, this kind of gets to the milestones for your long service awards or when you celebrate people's tenure. It used to be much more standard that you'd celebrate tenure at 5 years, but the average tenure of an employee in the US is 4.2 years. In Europe, it's a little bit longer. In the UK, it's like 2 years. So we don't want to make people wait until they've hit 5 years or even 3 years to celebrate that they've been there. We want to forge that connection, bring them into the culture even sooner. So for a lot of our clients, we're saying, hey, we need to do that 1 year anniversary and we need to do it right. But they've really taken it to the next level, and they're using what we call welcome recognition that just sends out these welcomes at 30 days, at 90 days, whatever milestone that works for them. And in a lot of cases, the messages are about the values, right? It's 30 days in. You've gotten through the initial training. You're starting to really dig in. Thanks so much for your tenacity and your willingness to learn. And then maybe at 90 days, it's, hey, you've actually started to really contribute to our mission and our values at this point. We're so grateful to have you on the team. Thank you. Even if it's automated, that can be such a cool milestone, right? If you can alert your managers to these milestones and they can do it in person, fabulous. But then to get that consistency, that's where really having something that automates these messages can be really cool. And building that loyalty before their 90 days, even when we know like sometimes up to 30% of people that are going to leave in those early months. Next, we look at the engagement of people throughout their career, right? They've been onboarded, they've been welcomed, and now they're ready to really dive in, and they've got the length of their career. One of the things that we've seen clients do, especially in the last couple of years, is review and prioritize their benefits based on their values. We had a period in about 2016 where we really wanted to add in more reward budget for our employees at Reward Gateway. We have a really strong recognition program, but we wanted more money for rewards to give out on a week-to-week basis to people for great work. And so what our team did is they went back to the drawing board and they looked at all the different benefits that we had. And they said, there's this benefit that we all really love. It's that, we have a discounts program that we offer to our clients that we use ourselves. And it was that as a Reward Gateway employee, I got double discounts. So if our clients got 5% off at Target or, 12% off at LL Bean in our discounts platform, I would get 10% off or 24% off, and the company would cover the difference. It's a cool benefit, but it almost doesn't support our delight our clients value. If our product is really great, why do we need double discounts to make it great? And if we could cut that benefit back, we can now support rewards for great work. So that was a decision that we made. There was a little bit of, oh man, we really missed those double benefits, but we got that back and more once those rewards were really flowing out from managers. Thinking about another way to make sure you're engaging your people and supporting your culture. Are there any rules or policies that can be tossed out? Maybe everybody rolls their eyes at them at this point anyway, or you realize there's rarely anyone that violates that rule. I don't want to insult people by having it on the books. There's more and more freedom and independence that people have seen in the last few years, and they've accepted it and moved forward with grace. Is there a way that you can be that kind of a company that just trusts your people more? The other thing is making benefits information easily available. Having managers highlight those benefits and reminding employees is a way. Remember, the second thing that as an employee must have right now is that my manager cares about me. So maybe in the midst of inflationary challenges, you want managers to highlight, hey, we have a way for you to get an advance on your salary if you have some bills coming up that you don't think you can pay. And I don't want you to have to come to me and ask questions. Here's where you can go to find that information. Or we have an EAP service that we support. There's a lot of challenges with well-being right now as people are struggling through, adapting to change in the last few years. If you want to take advantage of it, here's how you do it. So making it really available so they don't have to ask questions, and allowing managers to have those conversations with their teams before it becomes a problem. And of course, having managers highlight how people are living those values. I want to share with you some of the benefits that I think really support our values here at Reward Gateway. We have run clubs and workout clubs for people that want to be able to challenge each other or compete against each other or just get acknowledgement for their efforts. In a lot of cases, it would be that someone would post and say, it's really rainy here in London and I went for my run, and everyone celebrates their accomplishment. So we have employee groups that come together. I think we gave them access to the Couch to 5K app as part of that, but in a lot of cases, it was just forming that community. We have a benefit called Safely Home. This is a benefit that was put forth. We have a women's network here at Reward Gateway, and there was a time period in one of the cities that we live in where it was in the news that women weren't feeling as safe out at night. And so the Women's Club suggested it, and our LGBTQIA club got behind it as well. In some parts of the world where our company exists, people may not be as comfortable or as cared for as LGBTQIA community members as I might feel here. And so what this benefit is, if at any point you don't feel safe, you can take a cab and you can expense it. I love this benefit. The chances that little old suburban Rochester, New York, I'm going to get a cab. I mean, I'd have trouble finding an Uber. Even with the app, I sometimes have trouble finding an Uber, but I love this for my colleagues across the world, that if they ever are in a place where they don't feel safe, the company will pay for that cab. That touches my heart. That makes me happy. That makes me want to do whatever I can for my company. And it's so in support of our values. I love it. The other one is volunteer days, right? Knowing that you have a company that supports social responsibility is really important to people. And we don't know what is an important topic to you. So I have 3 days, in addition to my PTO and all those other things, where I can go and volunteer. So for example, there's a local organization that supports children at risk, and I took a day off and I went and volunteered and helped them organize donations. And then most recently, just a couple of months ago, I took a day off and helped with our local food bank in their warehouse. I helped them with shelving and checking and sorting things. And it's just such a boost. We actually went as a team, the last one, and it's such a great way to really connect and communicate with your people. So volunteer days is another one. Book benefit. We used to have a business book benefit. Once a month, you could buy a business book, but they really amped it up during COVID. And they said, hey, everybody, we want you to stay well. So now you can buy a fiction book, audio book, or physical book once a month so that you take that time to put your feet up. We want you to know it's important that you enjoy and entertain and relax. And then lastly, pet rescue. The company, I think it's like 200 US dollars for us, provides us with a stipend to rescue a pet from a kennel or a pound. And then we have our unconditional love in our offices. It's great for our well-being, and the organization supports us. So some examples you might want to use to make sure your culture is visible to people. Now, I've just talked about a lot of benefits. And something I know that HR teams and leaders have been really focused on in the last few years is giving people what they need, right? Supporting them, adding benefits. The other thing we know is that a lot of employees are saying, I don't even know what benefits we do have, regardless of if they're new. So I wanted to share with you our benefits hub as an idea. A lot of our clients are doing this as well. They have a page out on their employee engagement platform. As you can see here, our benefits are segmented by type, right? We've got a family well-being section where we've got caregiver support and fertility support and wedding bonuses. We've got our financial well-being section where we've got debt support and salary advance. We've got time away for blood donating, for family leave, for study leave. So it's all organized here so a new joiner can find it, but also so that people can use the benefits in the way that is most important to them as individuals. So as my kids go off to school, I may need different benefits than I did when they were babies. Or as the market changes, right? Like I said, there's debt support. When I was being onboarded, I probably could have cared less, but there's a lot more of my colleagues that would have wanted to know about that during cost of living and inflationary challenges. So it's all here. I can go find it. My HR team can quickly update it and let people know. And it's also really clear all of the different benefits we have. If you've been putting effort into supporting your culture with some really fabulous benefits, the last thing I want is for people to not even know and for you not to get credit for how you're supporting people. Another way that we live our values, I've already mentioned this, is we have these employee networks. It's really important to keep people engaged, keep people connected. So we live our values of diversity and inclusion by supporting these networks. I'm a member of the Accessibility and Allies Network. I have kids that are deaf and hard of hearing, so I joined that network so that I can support and ensure we have captioning, that we're thinking about our colleagues that are differently abled and maybe chronically ill. We've got our multicultural network, intergenerational network, LGBTQIA network, women's network, our parents community, our carers community, right? If you're caring for older parents as well. So I think these are really important ways that we live our values too, is giving our employees these safe spaces. Now, how do you use your values to manage, right? How can you use them to encourage productivity over time? Something we've seen our clients do is have employees rate themselves on their delivery of the values. Just like you did during onboarding, like which of these are you least natural at or most natural at? Asking employees occasionally just to have a different topic of conversation. Which of these values do you think you do really well? Do you speak up? Do you push the boundaries, if I use RG examples? Are you being human? Are you being gracious about other people's attempts at work and making sure you're being gentle with yourself? Or are there ones that you struggle with? And as your manager, should I know, right? Maybe speak up is tough for you. So let me support you with that, right? Let me ask you those questions in meetings. Say, hey, we've just had a fabulous conversation. Is there anything else you want to say? Hey, Alex, you haven't said anything in a while. What can you say? The other thing you can do is reviewing, if you've got formalized online recognition or some way it's documented, reviewing those recognitions for a year or 6 months, whenever your performance time is, so that you can remove that recency bias when you're having those conversations. So, I can go in and I can filter for recognitions for someone on my team, read through and be reminded, oh man, that was only 4 months ago, but they were part of that huge product or project. I better celebrate that with them when we do their annual review. Otherwise, that could be really disengaging. Another idea we've heard people do that really supports the values during the management phase is having managers ask what they can continue, stop, or start. It's certainly not our idea. I've seen lots of people share that idea, but I talked to a lot of managers who find that really valuable to shake up those one-on-ones. What can I continue doing, stop doing, and start doing to better live the values for you? And of course, you can ask them too, hey, what do you think you should continue doing, stop doing, and start doing? But that can bring the values right down in, and it also really gives you fodder for recognition. Right, you know what, you should continue doing that because you're amazing at it. And then don't forget about the say goodbye phase. As we talked about the great resignation and people shifting around, there's a lot of people that may have left and that would leave just in the natural course of business. Make sure you're holding those exit interviews and getting feedback so that they leave as a source of referrals, so that they, even if the job maybe wasn't the right one for them, they can talk about the culture that you support and make sure that other great people are brought on board. Okay, so I wanted to just talk more about living our values every day, talk a little bit about the way those values are integrated, but I definitely want to support the topic of recognition and appreciation. Hopefully, you're feeling appreciated from the people who love you on Valentine's Day, but we're also nearing Employee Appreciation Day on March 3rd. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about where our clients are really successful in supporting a culture of appreciation. And at the end, I'll give you some resources to help you have a bang up Employee Appreciation Day. Oh, at this point, though, I do want to run a poll and hear from people. Before we go too much more in depth, we've been having some conversations in chat. But what I'd love people to tell us is, which types of recognition do you use, so that we know where your different organizations are in your recognition journeys? Do you have service or milestones? And if you're listening in on one of the social streaming feeds, feel free to put these examples in to the chat of which ones you use. Do you have service or milestone awards? Do you have peer-to-peer awards where anyone can celebrate anyone else at any time? Have you put in the layer of rewards? Do you have maybe even employee-led rewards? I have my own budget every year of rewards I can give to my colleagues that I want to really celebrate. Do you have manager-led awards, which is more common, where we've got managers that have a certain budget and they can divvy up those rewards and give people a little extra boost? Or is it other? And if it's other, you can always put it in the chat. Do you have a really cool annual award you do? Maybe you've got President's Club, something else. All right, take a minute to select all that apply. We've got a VIP award. Hopefully everybody's important, but that would be the very important person. Okay, let's see what people said in regards to, all right, so service and milestone awards. We've actually heard 87% of recognition budgets are spent on service and milestone awards. If you're someone who's here because you want to think about how to improve recognition, I would have you consider, do you need to spend what you're spending on service and milestones? Is the fact that they've been there for 5 years something you need to spend a lot of money on? Or can you celebrate it in cool ways, like an extra day of vacation or something? Because we've also got the peer-to-peer, which is great. That's at 44%. Employee-led rewards, that's, like I said, that's a little bit, that takes a lot more budget than some people have. And then we've got 40% that have manager-led rewards. That's fabulous. All right, we got spot awards, also employee dinners, picnics, giving out a lot of gift cards. Yep. Something to keep in mind, 75% of people in the last year said that they're going to want to spend rewards on essentials. So making sure that if you are giving out rewards with gift cards, that it's something that's flexible for people to not feel like they're wasting that money. All right. So recognition, one of the reasons why I'm really glad to be able to talk about this all the time is, I said there have been some long-lasting impacts of the last 3 years. One of them is people's willingness to go above and beyond. 24% of employees said they're no longer doing it. It could be because they need to take care of themselves. But that's also going to have an impact on the other 76% that are still there trying to forge through. But when we asked people about the quality of recognition from their colleagues compared to whether they are no longer going above and beyond, you can see the trend. When recognition from colleagues is very poor, the percentage of people no longer going above and beyond is actually even higher. It's 46%. Down to, if you say the recognition of your colleagues is excellent, it's only 12% that are no longer going above and beyond. So if you are struggling with productivity, call-offs, and you know your managers are worried about this, it can sometimes be a little counterintuitive to be like, I think people are trying to get away with stuff, or they're not doing what they did before. I'm going to recognize them. But it's a really great strategy. And there's this data, if you go out to our rg.co/blog or out to our website and our press releases, we've got a lot of information about this if you want to share it with other leaders in your organization. We also talked about well-being as an outcome of the last few years and how it's gone down. 69% of employees agree that workplace well-being would improve if they were just thanked more. And that also is played out in the results. When recognition is very poor, the percentage of people that say they're frequently stressed is almost 80%. When we get up into the good and average, that's back in the 40%. Still, almost half of people being stressed out, but not anywhere near as much when they're not getting recognized for their great work. Another thing to think about when it comes to recognition, however you're doing it, whatever you're doing it, I really encourage you to make sure you've got the great stories. This is an example that often when I'm at conferences, this is the slide that people take pictures of. I was just at a training with a client. I got to go in person, and this is when all the managers started to scribble things down. Maybe you're recognizing frequently, but the quality of the recognition isn't quite there. This is AVI recognition, where you focus on you tell the story with the action, you connect it to one of your values, right? That's really important. You want to make sure that if someone is displaying passion and grit, which is clearly my favorite shared value from today, if someone's displaying passion and grit, you call it that. Don't just say, wow, you really did a good job. You lived passion and grit, right? And then you want to share the impact of that. When you were passionate and gritty, it allowed us to ask the right questions, save time, turn things around more quickly to the client, whatever that is. So AVI recognition is a great way to make sure that whatever way you're doing recognition, you just take it up to the next level. Whether you're sharing it at the start of meetings, you're putting it into a formal recognition program. The other thing to think about, and you might want to work with your managers on in preparation for Employee Appreciation Day on March 3rd, is expanding why you recognize. So I think if I asked you, hey, I saw that you called somebody out in a meeting, why did you recognize them? Most people would say, well, because I wanted them to know I appreciated them, right? Reason one here, to acknowledge that person and their efforts. But there's two more that I've seen really help to increase the culture of appreciation in an organization. And that is next, to educate others within and across groups. I was talking to an IT manager. I was out on his recognition platform and I said, hey, I'm not seeing as much activity from you. What's the deal? And he said, well, I recognize my people all the time in our meetings, in our one-on-ones. I'm always shouting out their great work. And I said, okay, but does the rest of the organization know how good they are? And the answer was no, not at all. That's why I have to recognize them so much. So sometimes it's about shouting out your team across the organization. This is where like socialized recognition, visibility of recognition makes a huge difference. Is your recognition just a means to say thank you to that individual? Or is it educating the rest of the organization about what it's like to do your job, which can aid with so much in connection and productivity? And then the last one is to promote and actions that drive results. This third one I've used a lot with managers who understand the need for recognition but aren't as passionate about it. Saying to them, what is a thing you wish was done more? How about if you make that your mission to recognize that thing? Something as simple as I was working in a aging services facility. They had a dining component of their business and people weren't wearing hairnets. And it was annoying. And of course, it's a safety and OSHA thing. And so they're like, man, it's just annoying. I'm going around, I'm dinging people for not wearing hairnets. And it was like, well, what if you start recognizing the people that are consistent? Now you have a better day because you're celebrating, and it's more likely to see results. We've seen this also in professional services companies with documentation or collaborating between groups. Recognizing people who are naturally doing that all the time, calling out what they did, right? AVI, what they did, the value it supported, and the impact it has when we do that, can do a lot to bring the quality of recognition up and bring a lot more managers in to support that recognition. Yeah, somebody's saying that educational piece is instrumental. Yeah, sometimes it's about PR. That person knows you love them. Everybody else needs to know what they're up to. So I talked about the socialization of recognition. I think that's really important. One of the things I love, this is actually our site, but it's the recognition portal that our clients use as well. The opportunity to see it all out there, to comment on it, to react to it, to filter by it, making sure that it's visible for everybody is the key part of that educational piece. If it's there, it's like if a tree falls in a forest and no one's there, does it make any noise? If someone's get recognized in the corner of a room in your company, that should not change. That person should get that recognition. But what would happen if everybody knew about it? What could they learn? Would that give them a boost to their day? How does it feel to be a manager who's having a tough week that can go out and scroll and read everything, all the ways that teams are supporting their mission? You know what? Somebody just said introverts are uncomfortable with recognition and it can be challenging at times. That's a great point. In fact, I was talking to one of my colleagues who was super introverted. Like when we would take a group photo at some event, she would be literally behind the plant. It was like an inside joke in a movie. She'd be behind the plant. You couldn't see her at all. Super introverted, but an incredibly integral part of our team. So most of the time when I recognized her, it was in one-on-ones. But there were a couple of times where I said to her, the work you are doing is so important to educate others about. I would like to share an example of what you're doing online. And she agreed to it. She's like, fine, I probably won't go read it, but you're welcome to tell others. And I said, that's the point. So in fact, at this point, the reason I was highlighting it is because 3 different groups were using her as a resource. And I knew she was working nights and weekends to support everyone. So I recognized her and said, you are being so gracious about your workload right now. Thank you for how committed you are to quality. And I heard from a couple other people in those other departments that were like, we had no idea. I can probably do some of this myself. Not as well as she can, but I'm going to back off a little and I'm going to be better about asking her if she has time to do things. So even my super introverted, lovely friend, I recognized her publicly because that education piece was so important. Okay, so I've mentioned a couple of times Employee Appreciation Day is March 3rd. Even for our clients that have really healthy ongoing recognition programs, this is a fabulous day to celebrate because recognition, you need to be creative. You need to have different ways to give it in person, online, with a reward, with from different parts of the organization to keep it fresh, but also like some bumps in your calendar throughout the year can help. So Employee Appreciation Day is an opportunity to focus people on the need for appreciation. Remind those managers that only do it sometimes to get back into doing it. So we actually have a resource. If you go to rg.co/EAD23, that you can go and there's 8 ways to celebrate Employee Appreciation Day. There's different case studies of our clients that have done it. We always challenge ourselves to try and hit a record of how much appreciation has happened. We once had a thank you day where we had live bands playing and streaming out to all of us who were working from home. And so it was like a festival from my office. So I had snack foods and I was watching these bands and some of my colleagues were emceeing the event. It was super fun. But there's lots of ideas out on this website and that you can use as a resource. But I wanted to share some of the ones just for the sake of this conversation that I think are really important. You might want to suggest to managers that their all staff meeting that week in early March is just appreciation focused. Right? Maybe it is celebrating what we do, celebrate what others do for us, reviewing what's happened throughout the year, something to really feel connected and positive. You might have a goal like we did for a burst of formal recognition. If you have a program where you've got metrics and you can track it like our clients do, see if you can see that spike in participation. Can you take your monthly the monthly number percentage of people that submit recognition up from like 45% to 75%? Can you get more people involved during that month or that day? Maybe you want to provide recognition prompts to leaders or those that are leading meetings. It could be recognize this week, we're going to recognize people that do this value, push their boundaries. Next, not push our boundaries, push the boundaries. Pushing our boundaries sounds like a violation, but pushing the boundaries is our value. Maybe next week it's safety, right? There was a message about safety and how important that is. Maybe it's those that support safety that prevent mistakes happening. Maybe the following week it's going to be who's living our passion and grit value. That can sometimes help people find new ways to recognize if they are thinking about it through the filter of those values, not just who did a cool thing, but who displays passion and grit. You can also maybe have a cross-departmental focus. Maybe it's, hey, everybody, for March 3rd, we're going to celebrate those people that that really support us in different departments. Maybe you've got a new benefit that you have rolled out and you want to make sure people know about it, or you want to roll out a new benefits hub so everyone can find it, talk about how much you love them and the values that you're supporting using your benefits. Don't forget to recognize managers. I've got about a minute more, but these are important things to keep in mind. If we don't recognize our managers, and then we expect our managers to recognize others, we'll hit a wall. So making sure that we're recognizing those people who then turn around and recognize others. And then the other thing we've seen is sending the leadership team out on site visits. If you have people that are dispersed, you have people that are working across 3 shifts, maybe you have the leadership team show up with cupcakes, with ice cream, whatever you want to do on Employee Appreciation Day and have that face time to let people know that they're important. So again, as I said, rg.co/blog to get ongoing inspiration. We are going to be celebrating up until Employee Appreciation Day. So if you sign up, you'll get a lot of access to even more ideas. But I want to thank everybody for your time today. Hopefully that I supported our mission to make the world a better place to work for you during this time, but also you can then take this and make the world a better place to work for your people. I want to check in and see from Rhonda and HR.com if there's any questions. I've tried to address some of them throughout, but if there's anything else we want to address in our final minutes here.
Apologies, I was on mute. Alexander, there's a couple of questions in the Q&A about Boom. Just wondering if that is the name of the app. Yeah.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I'm glad you said that. So our employee engagement platform can be whatever you want to call it. The technology is the same. Our clients use that technology, but it looks really different. So if you think back to Heineken and what it looked like, when you saw Boom, that's what we call Reward Gateway's version, but it's customizable. So we have clients that call it, there's a water purifying company and they call it On Tap. The Heineken one was Brew Wards and recognition. Their rewards are called IPA, which is like Interesting People Award, I think. So our clients call it whatever they want to call it. That is our employee engagement platform. If you have questions about it, then of course you should go out to rewardgateway.com and check it out because we'd love to help you.
I think everyone could have so much fun with that, with naming their own program.
It is. I used to think that was kind of a minor part about the recognition, like let's get those stories out there and really recognize performance. But having a fun name is really important, right? So like, I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. There's Choice Cuts. We have a meat distribution facility or company, and they call their program Choice Cuts. So cool, like way more likely that I would go out to a program that's named so cleverly. So that is fun, yeah.
Way to kickstart the engagement with that as well, like throwing a contest out or asking people for their input. That's fantastic.
Yes, you're right. That's exactly it. What should we call it? How should we name it? And people can really get jazzed up about that.
That's awesome. All right, I think we're coming up on time here. Lots of great comments, lots of folks that will reach out, and we encourage you to do so. We also encourage you to fill out the exit survey. It is going to pop open on a new browser whenever I close the session out. So just take a moment to give your feedback. It's important to us at HR.com and the folks at Reward Gateway as well. A special thank you to you, Alex. This was absolutely wonderful, much appreciated. To anyone that happened to have come late or would like to view it again, we have recorded it just now. It will be available on the HR.com archives. And for those of you who have been viewing via live stream, if you would like to view this or any of our upcoming webcasts and receive HRCI and SHRM credit, then just log in to your free HR.com account. All right. I think that is everything. Again, Alex and the folks at Reward Gateway, thank you so very much and take great care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.